So good.
Who's to say that junglers don't have mechanics, baby? You know, thank you, Tarzan, for making us jungle mains look good out there on the Howling Abyss. As we take to it once again between Satab and Rookie. This is for sign select, and if you haven't seen one of these before, well, welcome. Win conditions as blocks are outlined. First to tower, destruction. First to 2 kills before Ring of Fire, or first to kill in the Ring of Fire. And that means even if you got a kill previously, it doesn't matter. Once the Ring of Fire is active, it is last man standing.
Absolutely. 5 minutes for the Ring of Fire to begin closing in, and as a part of those rules, 100 CS no longer is going to bring you that victory, so we have removed what was easily the worst of all of the win conditions. That one was always quite boring to watch somebody play for. Now we just get to see as much scrapping as possible. Like I said, we are going to be seeing this one up against Zed, Jace. Really interesting as a matchup, something that we could potentially see mid lane during the actual series if either of these two want to get really insane. I'd be surprised. I would be very surprised if that is the case. As you can see, Rookie using that poke really effectively right now, trying to just chunk Satab down.
Yeah, I don't believe Satab has pulled out Zed in a competitive match yet. I know Saber has pulled out a couple Zed games over on Ultra Prime. One of them was really pog. The other, not so pog. But it's okay. Yeah. You know what? I still appreciate that we're getting, you know, Zed being shown more on Summoner's Rift. I think he definitely does have a place in the competitive meta. I think he really works well against Taliyah. And Taliyah has been, by far and away, one of our most contested mid lane champions.
It really has been. Any of these very aggressive assassins can work great. I think Zed's always sort of hovering on the realms of possibility for these mid lane pickups, just because we do have so many of these safe champions who usually could just sit there, kind of do nothing. Rookie going all in here. Hang on, does he just get this kill? Yes! Wow, okay.
He does. And Rookie should be able to dodge the last bit of turret aggro, forcing that first kill onto Satab. Rookie should have enough time to clear out this wave. Actually just going to go for a turret play first. He is getting very low in HP.
Yeah,
but
don't
because
die to the minions.
Satab's death timer is long enough that Rookie has plenty of time to get all of this accounted for and get a fat back with that amount of cash.
Yeah, with the kill also getting that empowered recall, so going to be able to come back to the lane nice and quickly. Tons.
Holy moly.
Yeah, I mean, this tower's also pretty low. As much as we said it would be nice to not see it be a tower kill that goes down, with this tower already chunked to half, and the towers being so squishy in this mode of the 1v1s, it's looking like that could also be a possibility. You could see after that solo kill went down, Satab looked so just... like, what do I do? You know, he was really laughing about it. That is the thing with the Jace. Straight under your tower, the second you get chunked, you can just get all in. And we see it once again. That's half of Satab's HP just gone. And the item disadvantage is also huge at this point.
I mean, I appreciate that Satab is trying to go combat for combat, blow for blow, but this is just a losing 1v1 at this point. You know what? Satab did not want to take the coward's way out and wait for the Ring of Fire. He said, I'll just try it. Why not? I might as well go for it. And unfortunately, you just got Walla Diff, buddy. 3,400 gold in the bank that Rookie walked back to the base with, whereas poor Satab, you know, trying to make the best work out of the trip he took to the dollar store. And a couple long swords and a pickaxe. Not going to feel that great against a full-on steel-plated caps and a phage.
No, Satab saying, hey, I'll see you on the Rift, Rookie. You know, we will get to play this matchup out plenty. Let's just get into it. Let's move on beyond these 1v1s. Still, the 1v1 side select is actually really important because blue side at the moment is very much the priority. Pretty much every single team is always picking themselves up blue side. B1 picks at the moment are so strong. Things like the Gwen, the Varus, those champions have been popping up. If you don't ban them over on red side, it feels just so great as a blue side pickup.
Yeah. I would be so curious if a team ever actually won the 1v1 and said, no, we want red side. You know, we want to be the ones forced into banning all the OP power picks. I feel like you would have to have a legitimate draft prepared, knowing like certain team priorities, and then just leave a bunch of power picks open, and then just take the gambit and say, okay, yeah, you get one thing, but then we get these 2 oppressive things, and that outweighs, you know, the sins we have committed in the draft. But I don't think any team has taken that venture quite yet, at least for game 1. So, IG gonna have their hands full, but also their pick of the litter when it comes to picks.
apparently AL did pick red a couple times.
Did they really? When they won side select?
In series, they've been taking red a few times. Okay,
Okay,
I was gonna say, as the straight up 1v1, that would be crazy to me if you are winning that 1v1, instantly picking yourself red side.
Yeah.
No, in series that is interesting too, because it really has just been blue side priority pretty much since Fearless really got introduced. It does mean that blue side's got quite a lot of an advantage at the moment. But we are going to jump on into the draft right here. Ban's going through very quickly right now. A lot of those priority picks gone. The Varus is up and available though. Gala's been pretty good on it, and it has been a B1 a lot recently.
Neferia is also available. Some teams have been dropping it completely, even when it's available. None of the champions that you could easily take into Neferia, like the Pompey, are actually available to counter it. But I think teams are just less comfortable with putting their jungler, especially if they are in a normal facilitative role for the strength of the team. And depending on what other champions you're drafting alongside it. For example, if this Taliyah is locked in for ThunderTalk, Neferia doesn't really make most sense because you want to pick something that will set up the Taliyah to guarantee the seismic shove combo, right? So normally Vi would be a great pairing here. Not available. Xin Zhao probably the next best answer.
Yeah, we've been seeing a lot of the Xin Zhao popping up at the moment. Can also pair it alongside the Sejuani if you want just a little bit of extra tankiness to get yourself into the late game. Either of those pickups have been looking fine recently. But also, you can just pivot and go somewhere else at the moment. You do know what the top matchup is going to be. Can potentially just take something into it, and is going to be the Ambessa locked in right here for Hoya. Has a fine matchup into the Scion and can get into the late game. We'll have to see what kind of squishy champions it has to try be chasing around during the team fight. IG right now are just going to grab themselves this Xin Zhao. I'd be very surprised if you don't want to lock this one in. In terms of those top tier of junglers, it really has been those two. The only other one that's been popping up quite a lot is the Skarner. JJ had a good performance on it yesterday. It is one of the better picks for him.
Yeah. IG's still going to take their time in deciding what jungle pick they want for JJ. Immediately locking down a control mage to match against Satab's Taliyah.
Yeah.
Seems like Xin Zhao is still the best pick, and IG have the core of a pretty damn solid front line, and even though Xin Zhao is not necessarily a tank, against most long-range compositions, which seems to be dominating the metagame recently, very powerful with that Crescent Guard, because you can just completely neutralize any bit of that late-game burst from long distance away. You can completely mitigate a whole hyper carry trying to find that first kill in a fight.
Absolutely, we've seen a lot of Misfortunes use the full bullet time into the Crescent Guard, get absolutely nothing from it. Not going to happen in this game. It is going to be the Kai'Sa locked in right here. A little bit of a dive composition beginning to take shape right here for ThunderTalk. I was actually wondering if we might get the similar sort of thing out of IG because it works pretty well alongside things like the Xin Zhao. I think the MF is still going to look pretty attractive here to IG. Gala had a pretty good game on it yesterday, and in fact, ThunderTalk, yeah, they recognize that. Get rid of it.
Yeah. Pantheon is looking better and better here for ThunderTalk when I look at what kind of champions they've already drafted together, because Taliyah would like some setup. Ambessa would like some setup. Kai'Sa just wants CC being put into the kit, and IG immediately recognize, hey, you know what? What's the skirmisher that's still available that would be nice with this composition? Immediately banned. So now, looking down the list of skirmishers that have on-demand CC, there's not that much left, Bloxer.
No, you're beginning to get into the realms of looking towards the slightly tankier versions of this, the Skarner, the Sejuani. I think those are still going to be potentially quite attractive options. Right now, ThunderTalk very much going to be focusing out onto Gala, making sure that he doesn't have a lot of the best picks. I'm shocked that we've seen a Varus get all the way through to second round bans. It's often been one of the first pickups. If you don't grab it B1, it's often going to be an R1 pick, so that one going straight through. Wouldn't be surprised if IG here want to take out another one of these heavy attack junglers. Yeah, the Sejuani going to go off of the board right here. So either you want to get very aggressive right here, grab yourself something like the Lilia or the Neferi, or the Skarner really is the last remaining one of these big tanky jungle pickups that you can really play.
Yeah, I mean, the on-demand CC from Impale would be great, but in terms of early skirmishes, Skarner is nowhere near as powerful as Xin Zhao, especially with all the nerfs that Riot has, you know, given the Scorpion. After its heyday of being the premier jungler, being permabanned in pretty much every single game. Now that it's locked in for Beichuan, I want to point out already that ThunderTalk not necessarily having priority in a lot of these lanes. Sion can kind of, hold its own against the Mbessa, but when you look at Kai'Sa being blind picked by ThunderTalk, IG, I imagine, you have the means of being able to pick a strong laning duo here. Maybe it's just Xayah Rakan.
Yeah, the Rakan has been rising in priority recently. The Xayah also just gives you so much extra survivability up against a very tough-to-play ThunderTalk composition. At the same time, it's a lot of dashes that the Taliyah would really like to make the most of if you do grab yourself something like the Rakan. Honestly, we've got a lot of these best-in-class supports still available, and the Alistar here would also be good in shutting down the possibility of a Rel being picked up here for ThunderTalk. So I think this is going to be the pickup right here. I feel like Leona or something like that probably going to be the pickup for ThunderTalk, unless you want to go Enchanter. You do have enough tanks that you can potentially go for something a little bit less of the tank engage support option. Maybe they grab the Rakan. Okay, this would be interesting. Works well with the Kai'Sa in terms of the full dive potential. At the same time, a little bit squishy into a lot of damage from IG.
I was about to say, recently, this week, a lot of the answers to Alistar have actually been Nautilus, and even though I'm not a support expert, I'm not a bot lane expert, so I can't outright say that, oh yes, this means that Nautilus is a direct counter to Alistar. I'm not sure if that's the case, but based on what I'm seeing and how some of these Nautiluses are playing out dives, 2v2s, there is solid interactions that you can go for and understand if the Alistar engages, either you can hook onto him, intercept the headbutt, delay the pulverized combo from coming out, you both proc Aftershock, and then boom, it's like an even trade. Or if the Alistar engages on your AD carry, the Nautilus can always threaten the other marksman and just keep him there. And we've seen many spectacular Nautilus outplays. Shout out Jue from FPX, who probably put on one of the best Nautilus games I've ever seen. There is potential, and even though a lot of people will meme the Nautilus as like, just standard support, do your job, you point and click, ultimate. Don't sleep on it. There has legitimately been some good outplays and good thought processes in trying to actually like make dives with the Alistar completely neutralized.
At the same time, I've also seen quite a lot of the Nautiluses just hook the Alistar to try start a fight. The Alistar really doesn't mind it too much in terms of, hey, I'm tanky, you've just pulled me a little bit closer in for me to get my combo off once you've blown all of your CC. If you use all of your CC right onto me, well then I'm doing my job right here as an Alistar. I don't think it's quite as direct a counter as something like the Alistar into Rel is, but like you said, there are some nice interactions, and if this game is going to be decided one way or the other, I really don't think it's straight up going to be the support pickups. There's far too many interesting champions in this game for that to really be the case.
Alright, well, let's see how it all plays out. IG taking against ThunderTalk Gaming on the Rift. Let's see you in Game 1.
It's so hype. What can we see here? What can we see here from IG? They're coming off of the back of the biggest victory that they've had in the split so far. ThunderTalk, they could really use a win.
ThunderTalk already getting aggressive level 1. Just using the power of a lot of the synergies these champions have together for that first level of the game, but Mako looming on over to the right side. And a reminder, this is Mako's 1,000th game today in the LPL.
That's crazy.
That is insane. Like, it just, for any who was tuning into the LPL for the first time this season or recently and may not know, the long history of Mako, I mean, this guy was with EDG for years. Probably one of the longest stints any LPL player has been with an organization before eventually going over to, I want to say, Top Esports last year, and then coming over to IG this year. But Mako, responsible for being a part of that team that gave LPL its 3rd world title with EDG in 2021. A lot of people, when, they look at LPL and they look at LCK and go, oh yeah, okay, like Faker is the franchise player for T1. Well, Mako was the franchise player for EDG. No other LPL player has had a stint that long.
No, he was with them for 9 years. 9 full years with one team is crazy. Most players are not lucky enough to have a 9-year-long career. 9 years with one team was brilliant to see, and congratulations to him on that 1000th game right here. He's playing on a very strong IG squad at the moment, a squad that just came off the back of that top esports win, of which he was a big part of it, was really good on a lot of these engaged support champions, things like the Alistar. So you can do in this game, obviously taking a big chunk of health at the moment, as you do. Alistar very weak during the level 1, but they've managed to get through that. They haven't had to blow any flashes, any barriers, so they're going to be pretty happy with the way the bot lane has gone, at least for the first couple of minutes.
Definitely was expecting IG to try and set themselves up with a bot lane duo that would have a little bit more pushing power, but already the troublesome against 1xN and Feathers, Kai'Sa and Nautilus is proving to be a little bit more difficult than IG had in store for them. Because one of the things I wanted to outline is IG with a Xin Zhao into the likes of Skarner. If you have winning lanes, there's a chance that you can try and really drive in a lot of pressure into slowing down the Skarner, trying to give yourself that big snowball advantage, being able to play for grubs early on. Doesn't really seem like that is in the cards, at least on the bottom side of the map.
For the minute, it's just going to be a lot of pressure going down from 1xN and Feather. 1xN, we've usually run a head-to-head graphic for him. It would have been an interesting one today, but actually, 1xN really hasn't been able to step up in the same way for ThunderTalk recently. We'll see if he's able to do so on the Kai'Sa. This is definitely his kind of champion. Actually, we might be getting a gank mid lane right now. No, okay,
yeah,
just going to be going past. Yeah, he was walking up into the lane. I was like, do you want to go for this straight away? It would be great to see. A lot of Xin Zhaos recently have been playing the game a little bit slower, oftentimes because you're into things like the Vi, who can just out-gank you a little bit. Hang on a second. There's a lot of damage going down. Bechuan is here.
As long as Feather's got to dodge that Blade Caller, but he steps on forward, threatening with the Dredge line, and Gala forced to burn both Summoner spells.
Alright, Bechuan immediately going to be able to use a gank very effectively. Gala losing both Summoner spells right now. Miko also going to be using that Ignite, so you've got quite a lot of Summoners missing down in this bottom lane. ThunderTalk going to want to keep this pressure up as much as possible. Could open them up to a gank from JJ, so they're going to have to be careful to be respectful of that. But with all of the pressure right now going on in the bottom lane, this is a great way either for Bechuan to get involved in this lane, or to say, hey, I don't have to worry about this too much. I can now go play around elsewhere. And the Grubs specifically, they've been such an important factor in teams winning or losing games recently.
Yeah, I mean, there have been times where a team gets the first 3 Grubs, and then something goes wrong for the enemy team trying to contest for the second round of Grubs, and suddenly the other team has 6 Grubs, and we don't see any more fighting for the mid game, but just towers slowly depleting across the map, and that's where the gold acceleration has happened, and both teams definitely want to avoid that today.
Exactly, that's why I think getting first set of Grubs is so important, right? Because it means you can choose for the next set. Do you want to go play around them? If something does go wrong for you, then it's not such a big deal. 3 for 3 isn't an issue. And for a team like IG right here, with something like the Scion and the Azir, those champions love to sit on a side lane before teleporting into team fights. With 6 Grubs, they could be incredibly strong. For the minute though, 20 seconds until the Grub spawns, and we're going to have a little bit of fighting potentially around this Drake. It started up already by ThunderTalk, but they're getting a bit surrounded at this point by IG.
Yeah, they have to really rely on Satab's little choke that he is holding.
Oh, Bechuan, okay.
As an escape route. Mako's trying to threaten him, but he's only got CC. Gala finally arrives to the party. 800 on the Dragon. Bechuan flashes because he knows they were about to steal it just from the back of an AD carry. But without a flash, Bechuan is open to get swamped by Rookie on the Emperor's Divide. And it's the first Dragon going to ThunderTalk, but IG say, cool, we get 2 kills.
Yikes, you could see that one coming from a mile away. ThunderTalk could really index into getting themselves this Drake, and the positioning just left them so out of sorts. You can see the recognition from Bechuan where he tries to turn it around, tries to go get a kill onto JJ potentially, but you just don't have the damage at this point in the game. You highlighted it brilliantly during the draft phase, right? This champion, the Skarner, a lot of nerfs recently, a lot less skirmishing power than he had previously, and they end up losing out quite a lot. Now, straight onto the Grubs goes JJ. He's going to be able to pick up at least the first one, but Bechuan and Feather are in the area.
Yeah, Bechuan now has Smite over JJ, and with the strength of his support, being able to make his way here. Rookie tries to face check, and even though he's not in danger of dying to a Nautilus support that is only level 4 versus level 6 Azir. Hang on. What about a Sion that tries to join the party, but Hoya blocks it? Beichuan throwing and pinning Jeje into the wall. But remember,
flash.
This is a Scorpion with no flash, and he's got nowhere to go. Jeje just merely interrupting his escape route, and the Shy is gifted a kill.
Ah, that's not good. This is now going to be 3 kills going over to IG. They're going to pick up the feat of warfare already. And ThunderTalk, they're trying way too hard to fight for these objectives and just not recognizing that their composition isn't online yet. We'll have a flashback all the way to this Drake fight originally, and you can see, just looking at the map, completely and utterly surrounded are ThunderTalk, and because of that, you're taking damage on both fronts. Vetron has to flash back to be able to go get the Drake. But once you put yourself in this bad spot, it's just going to be almost impossible to play out this team fight. And indeed, they do end up losing all of those kills. And then again, they fight too hard around the grubs and give more over.
You know how I said IG had slightly better tools early on? Obviously, there's like scaling elements in Azir and Sion, but all I have to look at is Xin Zhao versus Skarner.
Yeah.
Pre-level 6, right? And as we both called it out, you don't have flash. So you don't have the luxury of getting too greedy, trying to, force too many grubs away, because yes, Beichuan was successful in taking 2 away from IG and preventing the doomsday scenario of, 5 grubs, 6 grubs away from IG, but you have now given over nearly a 2,000 gold advantage, kind of for free.
Oh, what?
Now they're maybe jumping onto Mako. He still has a flash, so he's just biding his time until he has to flash over the wall. But Jeje throws out the Crescent Guard, but now the Crescent Guard has run out.
Yeah.
And maybe he is cooked. And you know what? I might have just cast a curse at IG, and for that, I apologize.
Yeah, I was surprised actually by how hard ThunderTalk were going for that play. I thought it was going to be very unlikely to pick up the kill onto the Alistar, as you recognized flash available to him. But all of a sudden, JJ decides to get involved, pops that Crescent Guard way too early, and as a flashless Xin Zhao, once you're pinned up against that wall, there's really no way that he was going to be able to get out of that one. ThunderTalk, they get that kill back. It does go over to Bertrand, not exactly the ideal. I think I would have preferred either Setab or 1xN to be able to pick up that gold, but it's still going to be something for this Skarner. Get him towards that heart still a little bit quicker, become that tanky menace that you really need him to be. And it is something. It's a way back into this game here for ThunderTalk. They are down by about 700 gold. Really not too much at this point into the game. Minute until the next set of grubs. Minute until the next Drake. Those two are going to be spawning at the exact same time. And with 2 grubs already picked up for ThunderTalk, they're in the slightly freer position for picking which they want.
Yeah, I was definitely operating under the presumption that IG were about to hit 1 item power spikes before the second dragon of the game and the second grubs rotation. Oh
no.
Did you see that sidestep by Jeje to not give Hoya any more distance on the public execution? Cleanly played by the jungler of IG.
Really nice little fancy footwork, nice mechanics to be able to avoid that one, and Hoya gonna go down as well. That's now 2 kills right here for the Shy. Someone who we would usually talk a lot about, but on this side I'm gonna have a slightly quieter early game. It's about that late game power spike where he's got all of the health stacks, just an immovable object. And to be honest, into this composition right here from ThunderTalk, it's only really a full multi-round combo from Setab or 1xN building quite a lot of aggressive anti-tank items that's really going to be threatening the Shy. If we get late enough into this game, it kind of feels like ThunderTalk are going to run out of damage to be able to deal with him.
Yeah, Ambessa's not necessarily known as a tank shredder. I don't think Ambessa would die to a tank, though. Once you get enough items, you have enough CDR and Omnivamp that you can sustain through it, but yeah, that will be a reliable front line for the side of IG, and because you already have an Alistar and a pseudo front line in the Xin Zhao with the Crescent Guard, this is definitely the closest to a team fighting composition we have gotten from IG in quite some time, especially since they are one of the teams that likes to experiment with Shy's picks. Shout out to the Nidalee top. Maybe we'll see it in game 2, who knows. But right now, it's all about that second dragon and the second round of grubs.
And they both have spawned up right now. Once again, ThunderTalk, they're going to get themselves around this Drake pit a lot quicker than IG. Last time it put them into a pretty bad spot, but you do now have yourself that first item completed onto Bertrand. He's going to be a lot tankier to be able to try step up into the situation, but it's a lot of components on the rest of the members of ThunderTalk. IG, they've got most of their first items completed. They're in a significantly stronger spot.
Good chunk by Rookie, but he flashes forward and calls Setab's bluff. getting the Talia flash as well. It's ult out from Rookie, so no more Emperor's Divide available. Satab still has the Weaver's Wall available, but IG have bullied their way back into the river.
And right now, ThunderTalk, you can see they still want to go in. Betron stepping up very aggressively right now. Satab does have the ulti available to potentially try to split this fight. But goes wide.
Oh, Betron flashed forward, but he got CC'd! He was looking for an impale, but he has no time to set it up. And once again, the ThunderTalk jungler costing his team a play around the objective.
Dang, exactly what you don't want to have happen right here. And again, 11 seconds onto this death time, and JJ can potentially go up for the rest of these grubs if he wants to try to initiate the same play that we saw the previous time around. It's just really unfortunate, but you can see the vision set up right here around this bottom side of the map. There's just so much more vision for IG. They knew what was happening. Now there's an attempt at a play on the other side. Shai gonna get jumped.
I don't think he has enough mana for the unstoppable onslaught. He's just gonna accept his fate. Good setup by Satab to help Hoya with the 2v1. Bot lane, what is happening? They are pushing 1xN and Feather beyond the first tier 1. Now JJ has to be careful about Beichuan. Still has the impale. He never casted it in the previous fight. Good punt away by Mako, but the death charge hits both of them. JJ popping the Crescent Guard, trying to block as much damage as he can. Flashes away from the dredge line. Good use of the summoner spell. Hoya here, looking for the public execution angle. Hits Mako.
Oh no!
The impale is just too short. And ThunderTalk invested so much for that play and get nothing.
Oh no. Oh,
wait,
maybe they still get something, Gala.
There's still a fellowship for Gala. He pops it, but he's got 3 members on him. He's not escaping that one. It's saved for ThunderTalk. Gala being a little too greedy on the base, thinking that no way the ThunderTalk were going to continue going for more.
Yeah, but ThunderTalk, if you think that, you haven't watched them play. This team just goes in and in and in. They do not know the meaning of chilling out, and they at least managed to pick themselves up something for the play. They got a kill top lane, they get a kill for themselves bot lane, but this play just missing so much from ThunderTalk. I don't think Feather actually managed to hit a single one of the hooks in that play. Obviously, the last one was flashed away from, but even before that point, we're going to go back quite far, though. This is the point at which Beichuan died just before that Drake, and he's just going in by himself. Yes, you've got that Heartsteel completed, but you haven't stacked it up any. You're not particularly tanky as the Skarner right now. This is just way too greedy right here. You cannot be going for this one, especially not at the point at which Mako has gone back to base. Yeah, you have to just go sit under your tier 2 tower and recall.
Thankfully for IG, they're the first ones to the grub pit. It doesn't seem like ThunderTalk will go for any contest whatsoever. I mean, Beichuan has a smite, but Jeje has been able to preserve it because he's got Gala and Mako assisting him here on the objective take. 4 grubs total over to IG, being able to take the second dragon as well, as we saw from the previous play. And the objective game is pretty much evened up, slightly favoring IG. Neither team has taken the first turret of the game, but with 4 grubs on your side, definitely favoring IG on the first ones being able to get it done.
Yeah, absolutely. All of the grubs they've got available to themselves, plus the fact that they just need to get one more Drake or the Herald or first tower to get these feats of strength completed. Actually, they've put themselves into a pretty good spot at the beginning of this game. Now, what we saw from them up against Top Esports was very much that they were losing early games and then fighting back for themselves by just over 1,000 gold. Can they hold on to this lead? Can they execute this one well? Because they've got the kind of composition that can play really well into the late game. Like you said, between the Azir and the Sion, that's a lot of late game scaling you can think about, and JJ's done a good job of bridging this early game gap for them.
Yeah. It's definitely what you're hoping for as an IG fan, knowing that IG have struggled against some of the top teams, but still being able to pull out a comeback. Now that you have the advantage against a team like ThunderTalk, for the sake of consistency and for your squad's overall progression, they gotta maintain it. They locked down Mako, but he still has an ultimate, and the impale is broken by the unbreakable will, but Hoya now lands the public execution, at least takes out the support of IG. The Shy is flanking Satab and 1xN on the right side, but he's got no support. He's forced to flash away. 1xN just might run him down. The flash from Beichuan finds Jeje, the Crescent Guard. He dashes away. Here comes Rookie. Good sweep. The Emperor's Divide pushes him right into Gala's waiting arms. The feathers, rips Satab and 1xN asunder. H1's got no more damage dealers. He's got to run for it, but this Scorpion just might be bird food. As Gala, can he deny the other blast cone? Not going to happen. H1 should be able to escape from now. He's going to leave him into Hoya, and now both of these champions might just turn it around back on the Shy since Gala abandoned him. It's getting close, but the shields from Hoya, and there's just not much damage left in the tank for Shy. He's gonna try to run for it. Mako flashing forward. He wasn't coming back, but the slow by the Skarner W. This is a clown show, bro. Oh my goodness.
There's Feats just picked up in and amongst everything else. Mako actually going to keep stepping forwards right here. Gala doing some decent damage to this tower as well.
Mako,
coming in. Hang on. He's got no flash now.
Oh, goodness. Feather, does he have another dredge line in him?
Hook? Where's the hook?
Oh, sidestepped.
Rafa, what was that?
I'm still processing it.
We've
first
got a Drake
jitters,
up
baby.
now.
Yeah,
potentially first game jitters. You know, IG, they just had to play out the craziest game versus top esports. Have a look, though, at how many big ultis are used in an attempt to kill this Alistar, right? The Impale immediately gets unregulated away from. Then you get the public execution going in. Finally, you get the cow. But at that point, you've blown your two biggest ultis, really, just straight onto a champion that, hey, likes it when you use all of their damage into them. And then it's this. It's this right here that you're going to see from Rookie, where he manages to get this huge Shurima shuffle, pushing everybody back over. The fact that Setup just about gets caught by that is crazy. Puts him into the bounce house, and it makes that team fight very easy for IG to be able to win. There's a little bit of Clown Fiesta on the back end of this one. The Shy stepping up and getting abandoned by Gala. If Gala follows him there, they probably do actually get a couple more kills onto ThunderTalk. Instead, that one ends up being a little bit of a mistake.
There's a lot of fumbling and a lot of stumbling, but you know what? Rookie is having a very clean game. And if you're an IG fan, that is one thing you can at least be grateful for. That your mid laner is putting in that work. 3-0-4 on the Azir. Especially, you know, we know that Rookie hasn't always had clean Azir games this season so far. Shout out to the NIP series back in Split 1. But you know what? Rookie has evolved past that shadow, past those demons. He's now back, trying to strive for a cleaner form in this Split 2.
And now is going to complete that Nash's Tooth, so is in a very strong spot in this game. 2 items completed onto the main carriers of Rookie and Gala, so they're going to be able to carry this one out just as long as they get enough frontline protection, something this composition should be able to do pretty well for them. Going to be able to grab themselves this Rift Herald as well, so the objectives really have been in IG's favour. The kills too, it's turned into about 3k gold lead right here for IG. Might expand even further with this top lane tier 1 falling. And for the minute, ThunderTalk, they really need to find a way to get back into this game. They're down in terms of gold pretty much across the board. It's just top lane where they've got a small advantage. And as much as Hoya's looked okay in some of the matchups, it hasn't really been Hoya's split so far. Darkness.
Definitely
so
a tough
much darkness.
One. And Beichuan has to be one of the few to step up forward first. Mako will greet him alongside the Shy. I think they briefly saw that it was 2k HP, but yep, Otacon ripped, Flowers uncontested by the rest of ThunderTalk, and that public execution did not land, and now Beichuan is all by himself with the Rookie. Maybe they can fight their way through the bot side, but the Shy is a giant wall, and Gala punishes all who try to pass through the wall. ThunderTalk have nowhere else left to go except backwards, and Jeje will ensure that Satab will fall as well.
Brilliant play right there from the Shy. Gets a double knock-up straight into the ulti combo and is able to just buy so much space, so much time. At the same time as that's happening, Betron's in the backline of that fight, attempting to get things done there, really isn't able to do so. And because the Rift Herald was still in the back pockets of the IG members, look at that, 4 of the grubs, going to mean tons of these mites helping rip through these towers. The gold lead has been busted wide open, 6k an advantage for IG, and they are just in control of the Rift right now.
7,000 gold ahead for IG. We'll take a look back at that replay once again.
Right here, Betron goes flying in, but it really is the Shy just buying space, buying time right here. It just is a brick wall, like you said, that nobody else, none of the actual damage dealers are able to step through. You see right there, he does the ulti knock-up combo and just buys enough space, enough time for the damage-dealing members of IG to get the kill onto Bertrand and then turn around and start hitting onto those main carries. A brilliant job in this game so far from the Shy. Obviously, we think of him as playing these wacky carry top laners. He's been playing the Nidalee a lot recently, but still, you can put this man on a tank and he will just buy you space, buy you time, and win you team fights.
Oh, now Rookie's looking for Beitron. He tries to flash over the Impale, but it's equalized out by Rookie just casting the Seeker Stasis. ThunderTalk lose out in their jungler once again, now have to defend a dive. Oh, goodness gracious. Satab just lost 3/4 of his HP. 1xN under fire. Mako and JJ flashing forward. Looking for 1xN, but he pops the barrier, but the Shy wants a piece of that goal. The guys are two. Meanwhile, IG on the left side, they're just killing ThunderTalk members left, right, and center. And Bloxer, I think it would be disingenuous to say that this game is not over, but it's pretty hard to say so, because it is still at 7,000 gold lead, you know, to their credit. You know, it's not been ballooned quite as much, but I mean, come on. The base is all yet to be completely ruined.
Yeah, 606, 3,700 gold lead right here. 3 items completed onto Rookie. This game, it isn't done. There is still a chance for ThunderTalk to be able to get back into this one, but they've got the kind of composition that was really going to be spiking at this point once they've got these 2 items completed. But they're so behind the curve at this point. The IG, they've got beyond that point. They're going to be more than happy to keep taking these team fights. They've got the unbreakable wall between Mako and the Shy, and the damage dealers are just shredding. You can see here, this just has not been the game so far from Bertrand. Really nice bot back over the wall, and the golden 2 to stop the Impale from being able to do anything. Bertrand has been caught again and again and again, and this Skarner has been one of his best picks. Feather also now just gonna fall. It's not done until the Nexus explodes, but game number 2 is gonna be a little bit of a change-up we'd have to hope for from ThunderTalk.
Now, historically speaking, Bloxer, the times that we have seen IG get super close to closing the game out, one of 2 things happens. One, they approach the Nexus, they siege, and then we see the Shy have a happy gaming moment.
Yeah.
And then suddenly it's a 4v5 against IG, or in favor of the enemy team against IG. And then maybe there's a chance. And IG have lost a game because of that in the past. We're going to see if history does repeat itself, or if they will progress past that point. Good public execution, but a better defense by the rest of IG to defend their backline from getting swarmed by ThunderTalk's divers. And it's just no use whatsoever. Every attempt by ThunderTalk is not effective, and IG will take the first game in this series.
Yeah, really quickly as well, pre-Baron. This is a 24-minute game, just about going to be 25 seconds once they're actually able to take all of this down. Setab gonna slow things down just a little bit, but he is well and truly dead right here. Knocked up, taken down. That's gonna be the ace to clean this game out. 25-minute game here from IG in game number 1. ThunderTalk summarily dismantled.
Like practice something that you've been working on that you don't mind sharing with the rest of the teams in the league, go for it. But yeah, I mean, I'm in the same boat with you, Bloxer. You can just run a similar style composition. There's plenty of champions that fit the archetypes of the draft that you just got away with in the first game. Go ahead and call it a day. Clock in, clock out.
Exactly. This could be a very quick 2-0 right here. If you really want it to be. ThunderTalk, they are once again going to be able to get themselves this blue side, banning away the Jace, the Neferi. We're not going to get to see that one. IG, though, they are very much trying to focus out onto Bertrand. He has been the kind of driving engine here for ThunderTalk, even though he didn't have the best series in the previous one up on that Skarner, with both Vi and Sejuani taken away and the Neferi. That's a lot of that top tier of junglers just gone.
I'm curious if ThunderTalk purposefully let a ban go through, or if there's like some, you know, ban missing that we don't know about, of like if there's a rule, but we don't know for sure. But that means Gwen Rumble are available if IG don't ban either of them here.
Yeah, indeed. They're just going to get rid of the Rise, so you've got quite a lot of that top tier of B1s to grab for yourselves. Things like the Varus still up and available, and then, like you said, Gwen, Rumble, both of those. But those are 3 very strong picks, and you could only grab one of them right here as ThunderTalk. If you give over all of those options as well, you are really handing IG a ton of the best stuff. Looks like they're just going to go for a completely different style. I'm not so sure about this one.
I mean, IG may have been onto something by banning away Sejuani and Vi away from Beichuan, since he is kind of the main facilitator for ThunderTalk. But now that Beichuan has something like the Lilia, which prioritizes more for self-interest and trying to play for his own advantage, you're now relying on your solo laners to be a lot more defensive, to be able to find winning matchups so that the Lilia can thrive in more than likely an ideal matchup for the Lilia.
Yeah, but right here, now you have given away a ton of those top priority picks. IG, they're going to slam themselves the Gwen. Such a strong pickup. Oftentimes the sort of thing you have to ban out on the red side. Now, nice and easy to be able to grab that one as the first pickup. Hovering on towards the Corki, again, something very strong. We've also seen in the previous round, we had quite a lot of bans going down towards that bottom lane, losing out on quite a lot of those champions as well, just through Fearless. So it makes sense to be able to pick yourself up this ADC as quickly as possible. Now, with the Rumble still available. You can also grab yourself the Yone here if you want it. This is a ThunderTalk composition through and through. You are just full slamming the send, go in, try for that wombo combo kind of team fight, make it all work together. It can work, you know. There's good setup from the Lilia into the Yone, then you can slap the equalizer on top of everybody. At the same time, if you begin to fall behind, you are so squishy as a composition.
Maokai locked in for JJ, just making sure that he has a solid jungler that can provide tons of disengage options, tons of objective control, and at least guaranteed primary engage for the squad in case Mako decides to go a route that does not involve himself being a, engage support or a tank support. And with the bans that are coming out, they're trying to thin down that pool for Feather because they know that no one else on ThunderTalk is going to be a tank other than potentially the support.
Yeah, right now, ThunderTalk very much are just going to be very squishy, so they are going to have to be a bit careful with this one. IG, this game is wide open for them right now. They're going to start out by banning away the Rel, works very well in these kind of wombo combo compositions. I wonder if they're also going to get the MF off of the board. Again, the kind of champion that can work alongside all of this. I don't think 1xN has looked great on the MF. I think he likes champions with a lot more mobility, like the Kai'Sa in the previous game. But at the same time, if it fits with the composition, maybe we end up seeing that. Yeah, IG just going to get rid of it.
Yeah. Not only eliminating that wombo potential, but also it's not an ideal pick for IG in their instance because there's so many ways that the MF standing still casting a bullet time can be punished by an incoming equalizer and easy to land Fate's Seal. Varus gone off the table, and IG are going to give Gala something that he can be a little bit more self-reliant with. Ezreal, I think that would definitely make a lot more sense since there's so many things that you have to avoid as ThunderTalk, but at least with the Kalista, you're going to have counterpick support. More than likely, this should give you a winning lane in the bot side of the map, dragon control, and at least Gala can still play with mobility to dodge a lot of these skill shot reliant ultimates.
Yeah, the Leona is still up. That could be the look for IG coming into this one. Right now, ThunderTalk, what do you want in terms of the ADC? Like you said, oftentimes just going to be a winning lane into the Kalista no matter what you do. So they're going to grab 1xN, the Ezreal. It's nice and safe. It can sit you a little bit further back. You can also just be abandoned by Feather. He can go and try roam around, get involved across the rest of the map. Feather hovering a couple of very interesting pickups. He has been known for his hook champions. He's really good on that kind of hook style champion. But in this game, I don't know that it's going to be the best look. You need something a little bit tanky. Otherwise, you are so squishy overall in this situation. I think the Leona's both a good pickup here and a great takeaway from what I think IG would have wanted. But IG, they're just going to slam themselves the Renata right now. It's the perfect pickup into the kind of composition that wants to go flying into you, wants to engage as heavily as ThunderTalks does here.
Yeah. Hostile Takeover will punish any of the ThunderTalk members that go way too deep and have no way to retreat. I mean, when you look at how much disengage that is available at IG's draft, it is scary. And if IG are if they get to be the first ones to an objective, ThunderTalk are so hard pressed to reliably brute force their way in without taking too much damage from the saplings. I think this will be a game that, even though Jeje is the only frontline member on this squad, I still feel like it's powerful enough to rush the Leandries on the Maokai so that you have really strong setup. You can chunk out a lot of these squishies because other than Feather, there's no tanks, right? And then that just makes it a lot easier for the rest of IG to navigate these objective scenarios.
Absolutely. On the other hand, this composition right here out of ThunderTalk, it's a very them composition. It's all about the all-in potential, going flying in as a group, exactly how ThunderTalk like to play, and there is a ton of damage available to it. Can scale pretty well into the later stages of the game. They just need to be careful early on to not begin to slip behind. This composition falling behind really isn't going to be able to fight its way back into this game, but if you can keep yourself even throughout the first 10-15 minutes of the game, once you have those 2 items completed, these champions are incredibly strong, and the wombo combo potential, if you can land a multi-man lilting lullaby right here by Bechuan, then you can make these team fights really work in your favor.
Yeah. Series point on the line. Invictus Gaming leading the series. We're going to see if ThunderTalk can rise to the occasion and bring us to a game 3, or if IG are going to clean this series in 2 games. It's time to take to the Rift, y'all. Let's see you there.
Come on. I want 3. Rafa, I want 3. I know you're excited for the next series, but I want 3 right here.
Do you want 3?
I do. I love ThunderTalk.
Okay. I mean, I can go ahead and get Slayer because he's the ThunderTalk hype man.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I respect it, and I would love for the ThunderTalk narrative to be able to rise and be able to get a game after such an abysmal game 1 showing.
However,
yeah. And thank you for picking up on my subtle context. I didn't say it, but it was felt. It was felt in the way I delivered my wording. However, IG still favored them, and I mean, being on this nocturnal schedule, I wouldn't say no to getting to the banger of the night, JDG versus BLG, just a tad sooner.
And IG, they're very much looking like that's going to be the case. They've looked so strong these last 2 days, taking out top esports yesterday. A massive rivalry they're finally able to overcome. And now coming into this matchup with ThunderTalk, they dismantle them in game 1. What can they do in this second one? They've got the kind of composition that can certainly do so. ThunderTalk missing a ban? Really odd. We still have no clue why they did that. If they wanted to leave a ban behind, or if they had to miss that one, if they just made a mistake. Really not sure what was up with that one, but it did leave a ton of those priority picks available for IG. Most specifically, the Shy has got Gwen.
Yeah, and Gwen has been one of the most dominant top lane champions we've seen emerge this split so far. The story of it was super comical because going into the placement stage, we were like, oh yeah, Ambessa, by far, the most broken top lane champion that you can pick. You can blind into everything and she'll be fine. And then Gwen was being experimented with, and people were like, you know what? With the changes, Gwen might be playable. And then we discovered, hang on. Okay, C-Tab taking a lot of damage from Rookie, gotta be careful. We discovered that Gwen is actually insanely strong level 1 now. And Riot was forced to nerf the champion because she was so abusive in lane. And yet she still has quite an excellent scaling power curve. So
yeah,
the champion just is never bad unless you are a bad pilot.
Yes, exactly. You have to play Gwen actively poorly to not make this champion still do a boatload of damage. The needlework can just shred through people, and especially in the hands of someone like the Shy. He's played a very interesting series so far where he plays the Scion in game number 1. It's just a brick wall, as you pointed out. Now in game number 2, he's been given so much more carry potential right here on the Gwen. At the same time, there are plenty of other carry options available. Gala right here sat on top of this Kalista. Now, we weren't sure how much we liked it during the draft phase, but we'll have to see what he can do on this champion. There's a reason it's one of the highest priority pick bans. It still does a ridiculous amount of work once you get into that mid game.
Jeje is leaning forward for a dive. They can make it happen. Maokai, one of the best turret divers in the game. Gotta be careful, though. It is a Leona, but the target is on Ezreal, waiting for him to shift before he commits the Twisted Advance. Jeje gonna flash away so that he doesn't take too much turret damage, and they can always look for another dive here after the turret damage has stopped ramping up. But Gala... but they have the bailout. Well executed, well timed. This bot lane is off to the races.
This is exactly what you want to see right here. Both of the kills, too, going down onto Gala. exactly who you want to be getting fed and ahead at this point in the game. Going to be able to push this wave through as well, so you're going to miss out on a little bit of the extra gold and XP2 here as 1xN, making this just such a rough early game. You can see he is able to get back into lane with just an extra tier, whereas there's going to be a lot more item power, almost 1,000 gold lead already in this bottom lane. That's nuts.
So, the concerns that we had around the draft phase where your main facilitator on the team takes a carry jungler into his rights and kind of leaving the bot lane up to chance. Well, IG are now making the first punish with that move. Now, Beichuan has a moment where he's level 5 alongside Feather, 3v1 versus the Shy. He's trying to clear out the wave as fast as possible, but he pops the Ghost, and now he's running away from safety. But you know what? I wonder how much time the Shy can stall here, and if anyone is going to get assist gold, it's just Hoya. So that is probably the best scenario that the Shy could have hoped for.
Really is. He's able to get the wave into what's a really good state for him, right? You can see it's just going to be pushing into him a little bit at this point. And now he's going to be able to get back to lane, only having given gold over to his lane opponent. It's still a death, you know, it's still something good. The Rumble getting early gold is nice, but at the same time, he makes the best out of a bad situation. As we have a look back at this dive once again, really well executed. I love the way that this little bit happens right here, where you're taking a ton of damage, but the bailout up and available. Steps back up, is able to grab the kill for himself as well. Survives, takes the ignite away from Feather too. Now we're going to see these bot lanes heading up towards the top side of the map with the grub spawning in just a second's time.
Yeah, it's just the awareness from Gala, recognizing that he needs to save Feather so that he can kill him after he takes the last turret shot, killing him and putting him into the bailout state before then looking for that final Ren. Just clean stuff from IG. Now, credit to ThunderTalk. They're the first ones to this grub rotation, since IG opted in to use their Callista power to get that first dragon off the map. But IG still in a gold advantage. I have the confidence that they can at least have the proactive means to set up for the second grub rotation on time and prevent ThunderTalk from being able to claim that objective as well.
Yeah, there was no real rotation there from IG towards the grubs. They were more than happy to be giving that one away. You would love to be able to get all 6, of course. Anytime that you've got yourself a Gwen on your side, you love to be able to get all 6 of those grubs, can just melt through towers. But still, going through 3 would be more than fine, and grabbing that early Mountain Drake is going to make this laning phase a lot easier as well for the members of IG. Now, engage is happening.
Beichuan still has a flash. He's level 6, but they engage right on top of him, now flashing away after securing the crab. And he pops the Lilting Lullaby just before the Shy is able to close the distance, but the fight on the other side of the river is going haywire for ThunderTalk. IG have done away with Hoya, and they got Satab on the run. No flash, no fate sealed. He's just hoping for either a lucky base or an execute to the tower.
Yeah, I mean, right now, Sapling... Oh, it's just out of vision. That's so unfortunate right there. Listen, man, so close.
ThunderTalk needed a win somewhere in that scrap.
And hey, it comes through. You also managed to just about limp away from that situation as Beichuan as well. It's not going to be quite as bad as it could have been. We'll have a look back at what actually kicked this one off. Beichuan was...
No way.
Oh no.
The LPL observers are on point tonight. Just pointing out every small bit of psychic damage that could be landed into Beichuan's psyche at this point.
That's so unfortunate. He does at least manage to limp away right here as the Lilia, and Setab goes on a magical journey to be able to survive. Crazy plays back and forth, but still IG coming out on top with these ones. They've got themselves a decent little gold advantage. Like we've said, though, the majority of that at the moment is going to be onto Gala. Rookie also got a bit of a chunk advantage, too. You can see he's up by, what is that, about 20 CS at this point. Same thing happening down in the bottom lane as well. 20 CS, the gap there. So it's just IG playing this early game out a little bit better for themselves with the composition that needs to get into a good spot in the early to mid game, because you've got yourself this Callista. You know, later on into the game, that's where Ezreal can really pop off. We've seen a lot of 40,000 damage Ezreals, you know, 40% of the team's damage across the course of games. And it really is going to be about getting yourself into a good spot earlier on for IG and not allowing this ThunderTalk composition to really get itself into a good spot later on.
Yeah. Definitely not ideal for ThunderTalk for their bot lane duo, who, you know, received notable all pro mentions in the first split to be down this early. At least, you know, Beichuan, who, you know, they kind of invested with this Lilia pick to be the one that is receiving a lot more resources this game, and just kind of saying, guys, good luck. I promise I'm going to carry later on. Just give me time to scale. But for IG, they are checking all the boxes. Jeje is getting the full clear and gank for his Kalista Renata lane. The Shy is absorbing ganks and making good deaths, legitimately good deaths. The best case scenarios in, you know, whenever he is getting 3-man goon squatted. And Zaytab forced away, the Shy being able to clip the end of the Fate Sealed, but not enough damage on the Needlework to at least threaten Zaytab, but at least pushes him out of lane.
Yeah, so they're going to have to go back to base. Does have the teleport up and available, so can just come back, stop this tower plate from melting over to the Shy. Still so much damage going on over. And like you said, this is an IG who are looking really good. They have so much momentum off of the win versus Top Esports yesterday, beating those demons, and now putting themselves in a good spot in the early game, at least, in this matchup versus ThunderTalk. Next set of grubs have now spawned. The first set did go over to ThunderTalk, and actually Beichuan is in the area immediately, and it looks like JJ just going to pick himself up this Drake. It's just going to be another Drake for grubs trade. Giving over all 6 for ThunderTalk, though, is a risk. At the same time, grubs are very much a win more kind of buff. If you never really get near the towers, you can't use them effectively. That's what IG are going to be banking on.
Imagine the mental damage that is done if you are able to beat a team that had 6 grubs over you. And it's not even like ThunderTalk don't have ways to actually make good use of that. You have a Yone, you have a Rumble who can overheat for that. ThunderTalk are now going to all in a 4-man dive on the top side just to shut the Shy down. Lilting Lullaby not even needed. It's just a great amount of CC. But the great answer by IG, 3-manning in the mid lane. 1xN pays the price, and ThunderTalk are going to look for first brick with the power of 6 grubs.
And you don't even need to use a teleport to be able to get yourself into that play in the mid lane. Now you've just taken down 1xN. They are going to lose this tower. Like you said, it is a good injection of gold. Meiko needs to be a little bit careful here, stepping up into the face of quite a few enemies. But it's a free pushing rookie on the bottom lane, getting himself a ton of gold, a ton of tower plating. Might actually be able to grab this tower as well. There's nobody from ThunderTalk in the area at this point. And there was also a plate picked up for Gullet in the mid lane. So just massive advantages being found here for IG. Yes, you get a kill by ThunderTalk, but it kind of feels a bit like a desperation play.
And 1xN, the player that we touted as kind of the star of ThunderTalk, has just been pretty much abandoned this game. Yeah. He is on the Ezreal. He is someone that will be a little bit more self-reliant and can, you know, has a lot more tools available to get out of sticky situations, especially once we get to mid-late game, and has a lot more ability haste under his belt. But right now, it doesn't feel great to be this behind early when you are so dependent on that mid-game spike, the Trinity Force, and the Muramana fully stacked up. If you are decelerated a lot by IG at that rate, then you're really hoping that Beichuan and the rest of the company are going to carry it forward.
Shy going in again, landing a ton of that needlework onto Hoya. Has to back off a little bit because of the equalizer, but still doing big damage to his lane opponent, chunking him out massively. And it's probably going to spell another recall right here out of Hoya. I've got a lot of pings going on towards IG in the bottom lane, and they are going to have a little bit of a push going on here, but I don't really think you're going to be wanting to dive onto a Yone anytime soon. Yeah, as you said, with the item disadvantages, I mean, look at the inventories right now. You've got first item completed on all the carries here for IG. It's going to be a couple of Liandries grabbed between Hoya and Beichuan. The burn damage is going to be pretty insane for them.
IG trying to pressure this bottom tier 1 turret. It is answered by ThunderTalk, 3 for 3 so far. You even had 1xN thinking about at least leaning towards the bot side if they really indexed on making the dive happen against Zaytab and Feather. Most flashes are up and available. In fact, as I take a double check, everyone's got flashes back up. It's just ghosts that are down, but those guys are on the top side of the map. They're not, you know, involved in this play. Yeah.
Ooh, TP, never mind.
Well, the Shy is asking for a bailout, but he's not going to get one anytime soon because Hoya overheats and puts that guy in the dirt.
That's unfortunate. So much damage was being done right there by the Shy, but he goes way too far forwards. Like I said, was asking for a little bit of help from Rookie, but that's pretty much just the TP wasted here. Not what you would like to see as the Corki. ThunderTalk, they are finding a few ways back into this game. You know, they're only down by 1,000 gold. They've actually got a decent advantage right now in the top lane, small advantage in the jungle as well. ThunderTalk, they are showing that they can fight back for themselves a little bit, but IG, they are just in a very strong spot once we get a multi-man skirmish. For the minute, there's not really the objectives to play around, but that's going to change very soon. Minute and a half until both the Herald and the next Drake are going to spawn. And if IG want to keep the pace of this game high, grabbing this Drake, getting themselves onto Soul Point already would be massive.
Shout out to the LPL observers who caught that Mako was forced to flash. Feather was looking with the solar flare, and to Mako's credit, he had no idea where the rest of ThunderTalk's squad was, so it just had to respect the potential of getting caught out, just to make sure that his life is preserved. Third Dragon coming up in less than a minute, same with the Rift Herald, and Otacon still a few minutes away. The Shy trying to do combat against Satab while he's got reinforcements waiting in the wings, but ThunderTalk is also trying to make that collapse happen, and the Shy is going to have to back up and respect it.
Yeah, doesn't want to get caught out here once again. Is all of the deaths right now on IG. That's not too rare, that's not too surprising, but still, the Gwen, we talked about it, getting it as that R1 pickup, it's so huge, it's such an important thing to have. Mako,
history
no
repeats
flash.
itself. Mako, no flash this time, absorbs the solar flare, the Fate Seal follows up. Jeje is trying to CC Satab as long as possible, but this bailout is just going to extend the inevitable. Mako falls, the hostile takeover was already used, and IG are now down a tool to brute force their way back into the pit.
Yeah, they really would have liked to be able to put themselves on Soul Point. Right now, their composition spikes so much earlier on into the game. But now, all of a sudden, with that death, Mako not going to be helping out in this one. Let's see if IG can really do anything about it. They're still trying to step up. JJ is still in the area, but no, not going to be able to do anything here. Actually, might get caught. Hang on.
Jeje is forced to go in, but remember, he doesn't have an ulti, and what a beautiful equalizer! Hoya looked through Jeje's autobiography, knew exactly where he wanted to leave, and laid down the red carpet of death, and Jeje had no choice but to die.
Now you're giving 2 kills over to ThunderTalk and this Chemtech Drake. Exactly what ThunderTalk needed to try to get themselves back into this game. They do not want to be 2-0'd right here.
Hoya now flanking Gala. No flash on the Callista. IG, they're collapsing. And the early game lead that they had for this Callista has just been dashed away by ThunderTalk.
Yeah, this is the ThunderTalk that we know and love. As much as they can fall behind early on, they love teamfighting, they love just going in, and with the kind of composition that they can do that with, has been great. We highlighted it earlier on, right? You've got the double Leandries between Hoya and Bertron. That's a ton of damage, and the burn as well makes it so tricky for IG to be able to step up in any of these situations. Not that it's been stopping IG, this is another thing, right? Classic ThunderTalk, well, classic IG, looking so good, and all of a sudden begin to throw it away.
Yeah, when we saw ThunderTalk get 6 scrubs uncontested, we may have not, said it directly, but our tone was very clear. It was a very bold decision by IG to make, and a risky one at that, and now they might be paying the price as ThunderTalk able to capitalize on some mispositioning by IG and just forcing the play, seeing remnants of what made that ThunderTalk magic happen in the first split of the season.
With a very aggressive composition out of ThunderTalk, not necessarily in that it wanted to go in the early game, but in that around these team fights, you got to all go flying in, get these big multi-man combos off to really make it work. We haven't even seen that so far, and it's been a good early set of fights for ThunderTalk. And by picking themselves up that Drake, they've also bought just another 5 minutes, slowing down the pace of this game, getting them closer to these advantages. You can see from this one, Hoya, he's just hiding in the darkness. It's not exactly what you want to go face check into Gala.
Unfortunately, Mako cannot do much. If the handshake does not land, then there is no other CC left outside a hostile takeover, which in that moment was already used since he had done it right before his death and walking back to mid lane. ThunderTalk now find themselves 2,000 gold advantage, just under 20 minutes in the game. Dragon spawning in 2.5 minutes. Otacon less than that. And the Baron still 6 minutes away. What seemingly could be a long time relative to how we have seen the game play out so far. But the way that ThunderTalk have rebounded and quite punished a little bit of the complacency by IG this game is now setting them up to at least... I know it's early on to say, you know, the gold lead is very small. But when you just look at all the pieces that ThunderTalk have set up for themselves, the Yone is scaling well into that 2-item spike. We gave our concerns about 1xN not being able to hit that 2 items without IG being able to steamroll them. They're past that. More mana almost fully stacked. Trinity Force completed as well. ThunderTalk have gotten through the early game stage woes, and now they're back on track.
This is the first gold lead that they've had all series long, and they're really looking to keep pushing it further forwards. Lilting Lullaby gonna land. Nice.
Holy moly!
Oh
I don't know how that Zenith Blade landed, and 1xN is able to get vengeance for himself as that True Shot Barrage just neutralized Gala, and the rest of IG are collapsing once again. ThunderTalk, a far cry from what we saw in Game 1. It's now IG on the back foot, stumbling and falling. ThunderTalk looking large in Game 2.
They're going to get a clean ace right here, and they've also got themselves the Rift Herald to be able to make this push hurt even more. All 6 Grubs too. We talked about how Grubs is a win more kind of buff. Well, ThunderTalk are winning, and here comes the more right now. They're going to be able to pick up 2 towers, maybe even get a charge onto the 3rd.
Definitely potential, since you have 6 Grubs on your side, trying to do as much damage as they can. Yeah. It might die before it gets there.
It will, but still, the fact that you were able to get even that much, you said it was a small gold lead, a modest gold lead. Well, this is now 6,000 gold of an advantage for ThunderTalk, and they are in complete control of this game. And once again, it's IG just stepping up in a situation they don't really have any right to. Betron makes it happen. The cleanse at least keeps Gala away from the sleep, but like you said, the Zenith Blade landing there is crazy, and the immediate follow-up out of 1xN. This guy, we keep talking about him as being one of those big carries for the team. He's not stepped up so far in Split 2. This game, though, he's really come to play.
The fact that IG made it their mission to bully 1xN for the first 10-15 minutes of the game, and we were rightfully concerned about whether he was going to be able to still be a relevant factor. Yep, those concerns are quelled. And now ThunderTalk, there's nearly 6,000 gold ahead. And at this point, IG, they're just hoping for a miracle fight to get themselves back in the game. Otherwise, it is game over. We might just be going to Game 3. The Fate Sealed lands onto Rookie. And this is just curtains. This is just a curtsy. Oh, my goodness. You see Beitron getting fancy, flashing Q forward, not even needing the Lilting Lullaby. Everyone from ThunderTalk is just styling on Invictus Gaming. The Otacon will be taken afterwards, but at this point, ThunderTalk have everything they need on the next fight to just run into the base.
Yeah, what did I say? I want a game number 3, and ThunderTalk are attempting to deliver right now. Another team fight where IG, they're just stepping up. They feel like they need to do something at this point in the game. They're falling far too far behind on the kind of composition that you can't afford to do that on. They get the Drake. They do. That is something for IG. They have got themselves onto Soul Point, but it's Chemtech Soul. It's not necessarily the Soul of Dreams, not the one you really want to be relying on to get you back into this game. Can see in this one the equalizer is just gorgeous. It completely splits up the backline, does a ton of damage to Rookie and to Mako, and then Rookie, just gets one tapped right here. And sure, a couple of kills do go back. The Shy is able to pick one up, but the lead that you're in right here as ThunderTalk makes it so easy to just keep stepping up. You just have a wallet diff.
I mean, the fact that Beitron is just Q flashing, not as an ult setup, but just to put more damage.
For fun.
I mean, yeah, for fun. I mean, I think Beitron is feeling so amazing right now. Like, obviously, when you play a good game, you're going to feel good. But it's even more euphoric when you were kind of sprinting it in the first game, and you bounce back, and you're like, Game 1 doesn't even matter, bro. Look at me now. 10 stacks on the Dark Seal, 5-0 and 6 on the Lilia, the highest bounty in the game, and he's still not died yet. I mean, ThunderTalk took a big chance in saying, after that Game 1 performance, Beitron, we're going to give you the keys to the kingdom. We're going to let you be the star. Can you deliver? The answer's yes so far.
Yeah, absolutely. 7,000 gold going to be the lead right here for ThunderTalk. A ton of that right now sat on top of Beitron, as you are saying. We've got a minute now until Baron's going to spawn. Setab, is he just caught? Yeah, he's just going to go down here. That's just another kill picked up. Oh, well, boy. Why there?
Sometimes this is how it starts.
Yeah.
It's still a 7,000 gold advantage for ThunderTalk, and as you
Ralph,
outlined, the Chemtech Soul, not necessarily the, you know, the greatest dragon to acquire in this scenario. However, certain champions like Gwen make really good use of it. Anyone with a bailout make really good use of it. So it's not the worst setup.
No.
And if IG are able to stall out the game for another 10 minutes, if they get Soul and then you play for Elder, I mean, then I don't care about gold leads at that point. If you somehow flip the Elder and you get Elder, then you might as well still be able to win the game at that point. Yeah. So ThunderTalk, you gotta be careful now, because the game is no longer IG's to lose, it is yours to lose.
Exactly. And we've seen IG mount these kind of comebacks before. They're not one of the cleanest teams that we've got here in the LPL, but they are fun to watch. Let's see if they can do something. They've got some tools available. The fact that you're able to get a little bit more gold going down over to these main carries is going to help too, with so much of the gold advantage right now being into that jungle role. You know, as much as it's good to put a Maokai behind, there are other champions you would rather be further behind right here. IG, though, right now struggling to get their own red buff.
Solar Flare fishing, equalizer, beautiful, right in that choke point. The rest of IG's backline forced to retreat as Satab tries to go in. The Soul Unbound keeps him alive. The Shy keeping Hoya and Satab back. But the rest of ThunderTalk can lurch on forward and just annihilate the backline. True Shot Barrage will do a number in Rookie's back. Mako could be falling next. 1xN not able to find it. But ThunderTalk have done enough damage that it's only Mako left. And this is game.
Yeah, this is going to be over right here. They've got themselves a ton of grubs. They can step up. The grubs will spawn. No, they're just going to wait for the wave. Don't want to go in a little bit too far. Looks like it's just going to be a base TP coming out right here from Hoya. With the timers going down. 4 seconds until JJ. 10 seconds until Gala. Way too long for anybody important to be back up and available. We're going to be going to game 3.
Disaster scenario avoided for ThunderTalk. They're able to make the comeback happen, and we're going to game 3.
The fact it's even a possibility is crazy.
FPX were super close to doing it in their respective series against IG. They destroyed them in the first game, and then the second game was super competitive, and FPX were just moments away from being able to close out the game too, but IG persevered, and we even saw a little bit of that kind of potential in this second game where ThunderTalk were getting a little complacent themselves and mispositioning some of their members around the map, but ThunderTalk were able to avoid Doomsday scenario. Now bringing us to a game 3, IG, for the first time this series, being able to acquire blue side, and actually I lied. IG had blue side in the first game, but they are back on blue side, is what I meant to say. And a lot of power picks have already been used this series. We're going to see what's left and available.
Okay, instantly going to be taking the MF off of the board, clearly not wanting to give another full wombo combo composition right here over to ThunderTalk. It is exactly the kind of composition that they are best on, so it does make a lot of sense to want to take that one away. See what this final ban will be from ThunderTalk, if they even decide to take a final ban. They didn't in the previous game. It's going to be the Neferi taken away. Now, oftentimes in this situation, teams just slam the Varus straight up as one of those first picks to be able to grab for yourselves. Things like the Cassante, though, are also still available and unbanned at this point.
Now with Varus, you have some flexibility. If you have a solid team fight front to back setup, you can go for that on hit attack speed. Varus, very good at shredding and destroying tanks. But if you have a poke setup and you have a lot of squishies on the other side that are very dangerous to a Varus, then you opt in for the lethality build. You try to poke them from afar. ThunderTalk, though, gonna go for an old classic for H1 in that Sejuani. Powerful pickup to help facilitate the rest of the lanes. He got his carry game in, cashed it in on the Lilia, made good use of it, back to the facilitative role.
Yeah, exactly. He had a pretty bad game on the Skarner, then a great game on the Lilia. But there's only so many of those kinds of very carry-orientated junglers that we've seen Bechuan really play, and as you said, the Sejuani, a big pickup for him, and it works well into almost every composition. It keeps it very wide open in terms of what you want to play. This Victor does narrow things down a little bit more. You're going to be looking to get set up into the later stages of the game. That Arcane Storm can be huge, though, if you can get the scaling off. IG right now, they're also pretty far open. The Varus works in all kind of compositions. Plenty of different builds that you can go towards at the moment. Oh boy. Go on, let's do it again. Yeah, okay. Now, I swear, in the previous 2 times that we have seen this Nidalee picked up for the Shy, it's been an encounter matchup. He took it, I think, once into the Gnar. What was the other one? Was it into
and
the
Renekton?
Was it the Renekton? Okay,
yeah,
so he has
Renekton.
picked it into both the ranged and melee kinds of matchups, but they were counters both times. This time, he's feeling good enough to just slam it blind.
Now, what I like that IG is doing with this setup is they are not revealing if this is Nidalee for the Shy or Nidalee for Jijit. Because you have now locked in this Sylas, most likely for Rookie against the Victor matchup, and IG can debate depending on what ThunderTalk lock in for themselves on 3rd and 4th pick here, because more than likely, they want to save counter pick for Feather in the bottom side to ensure that they have a good... Hoya is not scared at all. He's like, go ahead. Throw the Nidalee against me, the Shy. I dare you. I've got Yorick ready and available.
Alrighty. The Yorick, when the changes came through, I looked at them and was like, that looks like they're making him pro-playable. But that's odd. Yorick's never pro-playable. That's not the sort of thing that Riot really seem to want to do a lot of the time. No, it was genuine changes that make this playable. Now, it can still go into the jungle at the moment. This is obviously going to be a Yorick in the top lane, and that makes this a very uncomfortable matchup for the Shy if it is indeed going to be the Nidalee top. You can do so much to the Nidalee. You can, obviously, with Kuka form, jump out of the cage. It makes it a little bit of a skill matchup in the top lane, but it will be very explosive, and it also unlocks so much split push potential for ThunderTalk. Slightly weaker than his split pushing was prior to the changes, but is still available here. These compositions right now are wide open in terms of what they really want to be doing. ThunderTalk, they're kind of looking more towards the later stages of the game right now.
Moxer, I'm in the same boat with you. More than likely, this should be Yorick in the top and Sejuani in the jungle. But what if? Let's open the can of worms here.
Yeah.
What if, because Sejuani was played top lane yesterday by Flandra. What if? You know what? I don't even have to complete the sentence. I've already put the thought in y'all's minds. If it's as normal, no need to panic. It will all come down to what ThunderTalk lock in for themselves, and even if they, decide. Actually, regardless of what ThunderTalk lock in for, 4th and 5th, they can easily swap between Sejuani and Yorick. I guess it really depends on what IG round out their composition with.
Yeah, I was wondering what ADCs were really still left up and available. ThunderTalk, they've gone towards the Jhin right here, so they are very much going to be looking for the later stages. They need these team fights to be slower. You really need Jhin to be able to get a couple of rotations worth of damage off to really make these team fights work out for them. The Zeri would have been far more aggressive, far more ThunderTalk overall, but 1xN, he has shown some pretty good performances on this champion. What are you going to grab as IG, though? They still very much need themselves a support, and then maybe a top laner, maybe a jungler. We will have to wait and see here. Lots of flex picks we've got potentially in this game. Rel going to be locked in, finally. Often surprising to see the Rel get all the way through into the last game, the last round as well. All of these champions are strong at the moment, but the Rel especially so. Okay.
If it's the Jarvan, then high chances it's the Shy's AD Nidalee top lane. Because I don't think J4 top has been seeing any moonlight anywhere else on, solo queue that I'm aware of. It would be quite something different. Now, ThunderTalk still have the support to lock in. They could try to go for an Enchanter support. You already have a Sejuani that could act as your one-man front line to do it all and do the face checking for you. This gives you a little bit of an advantage in the bot lane to help 1xN get that push. And with Karma, it's not just about the push blocks, it's about those annoying shields later in the game. When you look at IG, their damage is very bursty in terms of profile, not really sustained damage unless Gala goes into the attack speed Varus route. But if he goes the attack speed Varus route, then he's in range of Victor, Sejuani. He's outranged by Jhin with the curtain call. That puts him in a tough spot. So I think this is a pretty solid answer from ThunderTalk to go with something as annoying as shields for their final pickup.
Yeah, I mean, with the Karma in your lane, you've got a lot of poke, a lot of potential in the individual laning phase. At the same time, though, I am a little bit worried for ThunderTalk's composition. It might run out of damage here. A lot of compositions, when they have the Jhin, your Jhin gets ahead, wonderful, you're cooking. if you begin to fall behind, it's so tricky to really make it work. And with this kind of comp where it's very much going to be a two-man carry front between the Victor and the Jhin, you really need to be getting a lot of power into these laners to be able to get these actual fights to work for you. IG's composition, I think, is a little bit more wide open. You've got more places to try to play around. Obviously, I's going to be up in the top lane. We're going to see the third iteration of the Shy right here onto the Nidalee. The previous two were victories. Can he make it a hat-trick?
This is for series point. This is for IG trying to ensure that they are one of the teams deserving to be one of the top ones in the league. If you want to be respected like that, you got to make sure that you can close out series against teams like ThunderTalk, who, while they've got gumption, they've got guts, they don't have nearly the consistencies and the star power of some of the top teams that we have in the league. And it's up to IG to prove that on the Rift one last time against ThunderTalk, as all 10 summoners load up onto the Rift. And it's time to see how this series concludes.
Oh. There's some ThunderTalk fans. There are. There's at least 5 of them.
They're few, but they're loud and proud, and that's all that matters. Don't let the IG fans dwarf you out, TT.
It is always great to hear some more fans for some of these smaller teams, newer teams, to really be showing up in a big way right here. ThunderTalk, I think they're going to have found themselves quite a lot of fans in that first split. We're looking so good. Right now, they've got IG on the precipice of losing a matchup. Let's see if they can really close this one out. It would be a crazy story of the day. As you said earlier, FPX being able to beat Weibo, ThunderTalk beating IG here would make this truly a day of upsets and set us up so well for our final series of the day later on. Right now, looks like it's going to be standard jungling so far. It's going to be Bechuan starting towards the top side of the map, working his way down, and the opposite here for JJ.
Yep. It does give JJ options to potentially threaten Hoya on the top side, since he will be finishing his full clear on that top side river. And with the way that the Shy wants to play out this lane, it's all about being a nuisance, trying to poke out this Yorick, using the ranged form, auto attacks, combined with the grass procs, and just constantly harassing and poking him out. And to be fair, Yorick does have sustain, but it requires him being able to walk up and smack the Shy with a Q shovel. And so far, he's not been given the chance to do that.
No, this is going to be the sort of matchup that really sucks for the Yorick earlier on. You're constantly going to be getting poked out, having to sit quite far back. Once you have that level 6 available to you, Maiden does do a huge amount of damage.
He's not going top? He did this in a prior series.
Yeah.
He full cleared his bot red side, and instead of
now
going to the full clear top side, he's looking for an early gank on the bottom side of the map. Mako already bringing the cleanse out of 1xN, and Feather. Now Feather has to flash, and Jejet doesn't get a predictive, but he flashes forward, guarantees the kill for IG. Now bot lane is on the board.
Exactly what you want from JJ right here. The Jarvan, very similar to the Vi and the Xin Zhao in that you can gank so effectively early on, and you really have to, right? Often said, if you're not ganking a couple times in the first 5 minutes, you're not playing this champion effectively. And this is going to be exactly what JJ does. Makes use of the weird path thing. Getting a kill early on for himself is going to be huge. Accelerate yourself into this game and make it so you can help out the rest of your team, carry them through, because you've got a lot of very aggressive lanes that you need to be focusing on. Being ahead is going to make it that much easier.
Crucial for IG to ensure that they get that wave fully pushed in before Bechuan has a chance to threaten Gala and Mako on the bottom side of the map. Gala, thankfully for himself, still has both summoner spells and something we didn't actually know, Bloxer. This is a TP Varus, no combat summoner spell other than the flash, right? But now the Shy prepping this massive wave. Unfortunately for him, Jejet is not quite in position on this crash. Could have maybe been an opportunity to really make Hoya's life in this laning phase really awful, but he's going to be able to absorb the crash and catch most of these minions here.
Exactly, and actually, like we said beforehand, like the fun little video that played before game number 2 highlighted, Shy also likes to play, hang on, I'll say tab.
Oh,
he's just
right on the say tab. I mean, he could flash away.
No, he's
but
fine.
between grass procs,
Wow.
the sustain he has in this lane is making him a little more beefy than usual, and he's able to preserve the flash.
Yeah, I'm shocked that he's actually able to just walk that one out. Sure, he's going to have to blow the teleport to get back into the lane, but still really well played setup. Just going to be able to hold himself poised in that situation. As I was saying, it's going to be triple TP right here for IG, and that could change up the way that this game plays later on. You've got so much extra maneuverability. It also means Gala's going to be able to get himself back into this lane constantly, keep up the pressure, see if he can get himself a bit of an advantage over 1xN and Feather. And with all of the poke that this bot lane can provide, it makes it that much easier to be able to absorb some of that poke and just go back to base for your sustain.
Yeah. About a minute, or just under a minute before the first rotation of grubs does spawn on the Rift. As you called out, multiple TPs have already been expended. JJ, crucial that if he is able to find any aggressive windows here. Oh no, Satab, gotta be careful. Does plant the ward down, but there is a control ward already in that lime brush, so it is now gone. At least TT know that JJ was hanging around on this bot river.
Exactly, we've already got that Mountain Drake up and available. Both of these teams going to be looking towards that one. You've got a good amount of damage for both of these teams in terms of the skirmishes. But to be honest, there's a real lack of melee supports going on down in this bottom side. It's going to make this Sejuani a little bit less effective overall. Right now, JJ heading straight up towards these grubs. Wants to pick this one up. It is really good to be able to get these early grubs onto this kind of composition. You can use it very effectively right here as the Nidalee. You can see already a couple of plates going over to the Shy. He's got himself a 600 gold lead right now. And Hoya just not having the best time.
Yeah. The Shy being able to hit level 6 before Hoya, I think, was able to find a big, massive trade.
JJ.
And with the Sheen, this is something that we saw in another series. Take the first grub and then immediately bull rush over to the dragon, not necessarily to start it up for yourself, but just to put some pressure on the enemy team and deny them tempo of being able to complete it for themselves. Shy's got to be careful. It is fighting a 1v2, not just yours, but the Maiden as well, but able to keep himself sustained thanks to that Primal Surge.
Yeah, Maiden just does also so much healing, so much drain damage too. JJ, like you said, is going to be able to pick himself up the first grub, grab the Drake, and now wandering his way back up towards the top side of the map to go try and scrap for this next set of grubs. If you can grab all three of those and the Drake, that's the perfect start right here for junglers in this current 2025 meta. But H1, he is around, and he does have some resets coming through. Rookie not going to be around if he needs some help. Setab would be able to roam over a little bit quicker. But the Shy is in the area too. Let's see, does he actually step up for these grubs? It would be risky to try to do so.
And Jeja doesn't have Smite at the moment, so not going to start it up and then potentially set TT up for an easy leash of the grubs. They already have 1xN and Feather rotating to the top side so that they can contest for the last two remaining ones. And because IG are already basing and redeploying back on the map a little late, they've just conceded the other two grubs over to ThunderTalk. But at least it's not 6 grubs again, like it was in Game 2. But this does set up IG if they want to play for dragon stacking instead of contesting the second rotation of grubs at the same time as the second dragon coming up.
Yeah, these two are going to spawn pretty much on identical timers right here, which is going to be interesting to see how that works in 4 minutes time. Because you get that first grub as well, you also stop it being a stack towards the feats. So it's just an overall nice play right here from IG's jungler. JJ has been a real carry potential for them. He's had some pretty good games, some also pretty questionable ones. So far looking good on the Jarvan after that early gank. Bot laners, top laners, they have swapped around a little bit right now, and you can see the Shy is still so happy to be stepping up right here, but it's so much easier to lane now that Maiden is up and available for Hoya. He's a lot less likely to just get solo killed. Does still have to be careful. There's obviously big damage that the Shy can put down.
Shy is going to take a bit of a beating, locked in that dark procession. H1 was in the area, but Jet popping up on that bottom side jungle, getting mid prio from Rookie as well. Being the first to move over and threaten, Hoya has to respect and not go too far forward, otherwise risk being extended or overextended in the waiting arms of something like a Cataclysm and a Silas coming his way. Oh wait, what is this?
Gank mid, there was a play top, okay.
It's just the Chaos Storm thrown out by Satab. Good flash by JJ to dodge the Glacial Prison. Could have been deadly if that had connected. No flash on Jarvan available, but a big chunk on 1xN. Still has both summoner spells available, just in case he needs it to escape. JJ looking to at least stop it. I don't think he has enough damage by himself to make the play possible, but
he's just going for it. Okay.
But the shield from Karma is going to keep himself alive for now. They're just keeping 1xN locked under the tower. Beichuan is sprinting it towards the top side to see if he can bail him out, but it might not even be needed because there's just not enough damage left on the side of IG unless he can find this arrow. Gala winds it up.
Nope, not going to be able to pick that one up. There would have been a shield available on Feather again, so it would very unlikely to kill in that situation, but you still are able to at least get some good poke down. Fact is, though, 1xN doesn't flash, doesn't cleanse. It was only the heal out of Feather needed to stop that play from happening. It's quite a lot of time invested up towards the top lane to not really get anything from it. Still, small advantage right here for IG. They've got themselves about 1,000 gold of one, very much spread across all of the lanes at the moment. So IG, they're going to be happy enough with the way this early game has gone. They've not got the kind of composition where they have to get ahead early. It's not the same thing that we saw in the previous game, where as soon as they started falling behind, there was just no way for them to get back into this one. They do still have recourse, they do still have options.
It definitely feels weird to say that if you don't snowball with Nidalee, then you're kind of doomed. But because of bruiser itemization, we've actually seen there is one breakpoint in Nidalee, at least 80 Nidalee top, where she is kind of a champion again, and that is at level 16. Because at that point, you have at least 2 items, sometimes 3 if the economy is really good, and because of the way the bruiser itemization works and all the grass procs you've accumulated throughout a 25-minute plus game, at that point, you have a large health pool. And the way that the Shy has explained in interviews is that the way he plays it is he is just a deterrent to the backline. He steps up, he threatens. If he lands a spear, he can go in for a big nasty chunk because the extra execute damage you get on your empowered Cougar Q form, right? So I'm just pointing out that, like, while a lot of people are very speculative and still memeing this Nidalee top, it does damage late game. It is a legitimate backline threat. It's just very hard to play.
Yeah, it's the much harder path to doing the same thing that we... Oh, hang on, Gala just going to get jumped right here. Takes a huge chunk of damage. Fourth shot.
Oh, good flash. Mako going to stall it, but now he has to block the curtain call as well. Crash down away. Maybe Mako falls, and he was just out of the curtain call range. Mako believed that he would not cost his AD carry's life by flashing out of the way of the last bullet.
Oh, I was so convinced that Mako had just sold Gala down the river. Instead, it's just going to be both the ADC and support for IG forced way out of lane. They're not going to be able to contest right here for this second Drake of the game. Instead, it's going to be JJ picking up a set of grubs for himself. 4 grubs to 2 looks like it's going to be the trade right now. Good play out of ThunderTalk, really using the long-range engage that you can get out of the Sejuani effectively to make that play almost work. They're going to be annoyed they weren't able to actually grab the kills, though.
Yeah. TT pick up the second dragon. IG respond by going for the next rotation of grubs. The Shy is now answering Satab on the top side, where both laners are now exchanging grass procs. And hang on. Mako still has a crash down, should be fine. Gets out over the pit wall. Beichuan not able to stop him from escaping. And just like that, 4 grubs now to IG's name. Rookie's got to be careful. If he doesn't have E up and available, he is going to take a beating anytime that Dark Procession does land.
Absolutely. We'll have a look back at this play into the mid lane. It's really good layering of the CC right here. Gala just about going to be able to get away. That is the issue with initiating the fight with the Glacial Prison. You're not able to get the double stuns off. Oh my lord, I mean, right on the very edge. Obviously, Gala knows he's out of the end of that one. He wouldn't have started recalling within that curtain call's range. But still, for our perspective, looks absolutely crazy right there. Things gonna be relatively even at this point in the game. Small gold lead still for IG, but they haven't really been able to balloon it any further out. First items completed pretty much across the board. Only the support's gonna be lagging behind at the moment, and a lot of builds that take a while to get online. You can see Rod of Ages being picked up for both Rookie and Satab, so they're gonna need a little while for that to get really where they want to be going.
Got 1:50 before this Rift Herald spawns, 3.5 for the third dragon. The Shy getting some chip damage down on the turret using that Trinity Force Spellblade proc, weaving in all of his abilities in between both human form and cougar form, which does kind of add to the split pushing power that Nidalee does have. If you ever leave her in a side lane alone too long, she is going to rip through turrets. And, you know, thankfully for them, IG at least are going to get one extra Void Might, or, yeah, just one Void Might total every time that any of them step up to a turret in the split push scenarios.
Yeah, not giving over... Back. Oh, go on.
I want to circle back, Bloxer, to kind of the win conditions you outlined in the draft, where ThunderTalk, they have a big spike in this mid game, and Victor will still be, you know, super threatening later the game goes on, especially with Grasp. But there is a moment that you outlined where, at some point, IG do have a critical mass breakpoint.
Yes.
I want you to elaborate more on that.
Exactly. It's going to be at that 2-item breakpoint right here, coming up pretty soon. Actually, hang on, Rookie's getting massively chased here. He has lots of friends in the area. Mako can go in. JJ can potentially make this into a dive as well. And just without Maiden, this is just going to be so bad.
Mako looks for the Q, doesn't land the stun, but the Magnastorm does connect, and everything else is pretty much easy for IG to follow up on that one. Maiden falls, as Rookie actually has his own Maiden, thanks to stealing and yoinking Hoya. Yeah. Yoinking Hoya's own ultimate. Now the Shy is under fire against both Satab and Beichuan, but he clears out the minion wave, flashes away, able to save his life.
Losing.
Okay, well, Gala might be in trouble, doesn't have flash available. Curtain Call looking one more time. Gala, waiting, still gets hit, but just not enough damage from everyone else. The Deadly Flourish does not line up, and just like that, IG able to take 2 turrets on the top side of the map.
And crazy damage still going to be going down right here onto this inhibitor tower. This is the power of the Maiden. And this is the power of the Maiden when you've got it as a Sylas, right? It's one of those funny situations where, you know, Sylas steals your ulti and does more damage with it than you can. Just towers melting right here. We've actually had first tower go down. Once JJ is able to pick himself up, this Herald, that's actually going to be feats of strength picked up for IG. Without Feat of Warfare even going down, we haven't got 3 kills for either of these teams this game. We haven't even got 3 kills overall.
This has by far been the least violent game of the series. I think both teams are a little more locked in on the win conditions that they're striving for. Everyone is playing to their limits, but also trying not to give over as many silly deaths. Even in the mid lane when we thought Gala was overextended, he and Mako were able to play the exit route super well.
And this is the thing. It's just so hard, right, to be able to actually get enough push going early on for IG to really try to fully extend this lead. They've got themselves into a pretty good spot, right? They're about 3k up. But I just worry later on, once the 3 items spike for Hoya and he's just in a side lane melting towers, you often play against split pushers at pro play, but not split pushers as potent as this or it can be. He can just keep pushing constantly through. I wonder if we're going to see a teamfight Yorick here. Hoya does usually like to involve himself in teamfights. I can see this being a situation where he basically never arrives with the rest of the team.
JJ was fishing for an EQ, doesn't quite land the knock-up on the 1xN, and now he's in trouble. Permafrost stacking up, there it connects. Mako steps in front just to make sure he can absorb the Glacial Precision if Beichuan tried to throw it out. Rookie yoinks the Sedge ulti away, force the flash. IG, stay cool.
Yeah, not particularly worth it, you know, grabbing the Sejuani's ulti but having to flash. That's really a big engage and disengage tool right here. Gone from Rookie. It's going to mean that IG having to step back right now. The Drake at least going to be started up by ThunderTalk, but at the moment with 1 item completed, a couple of components towards the second, IG getting to the point where they're strong. They're going for this.
That goes wide from Rookie, but the Cataclysm is massive! EQ right onto the backline from JJ! 1xN is in trouble! They blink out Mako, but Satab is forced to flash away from an incoming piercing arrow. Hoya joins the fight with the TP, but now he's in trouble. The flash is not going to save you this time around. IG explode at 19 minutes.
They're going to be able to pick themselves up 2 kills right here. They do lose 2 members as well, though, on the backside of this one. It just looks so good for IG because that Cataclysm is beautiful out of JJ. The Jarvan, something we haven't seen so much recently in the LPL. But right here, JJ making it work, and it's going to be the Drake picked up for IG. A second one in their back pocket, 4 of the grubs. This early game really has been JJ favored right here.
We were waiting, Bloxer. All this tension. For the first 18 minutes of the game building up, only 2 kills entirely, and IG find their moment. It looks like a bait since Rookie's first ultimate goes wide, but Jed just sneaks right on in and finds the perfect angle.
And it's 1xN just in and amongst everybody else during this team fight, exactly where you don't want your Jhin to be. Jhin trying to play right on the edge of range, never even gets to think about ulting during that team fight. And as such, ThunderTalk, they're not going to be able to come out on top of that one. The gold lead still only going to be about 3.5k. It hasn't expanded too much from where it was a couple of minutes ago. But IG, they're just showing that they can get themselves into good spots during the early stages of the game. And as we had been saying before we were so rudely interrupted by these teams actually deciding to go for plays, IG, they reach their critical mass very soon. In the next 5 minutes or so, that's when IG get those 2 items completed. Your Sylas can burst people down. Your Nidalee is at the strongest point she's going to be in this game. And the Jarvan is already doing work on just that Stunned Sky.
3,000 gold advantage for IG. It's something that we didn't get a chance to highlight. But the fact that IG were able to wait so long before locking in their jungler of choice for JJ, he is able to reap the rewards of seeing both Victor and Jhin show, and both of the champions that don't have escapes once the flash is burned. That is the easiest Cataclysm setup every single time. As Beichuan now tries to find a way to punish Gala, but Jet just steps up, absorbs a deadly flourish in the setup for ThunderTalk. No way to follow up on Gala. Now Beichuan is the one caught out. No flash. This poor Rider is going down. And IG continue to steamroll through the game. The Shy gonna manage himself against Hoya. Was down 50% HP, but now there's a chance to collapse on the Yorick. You already have Mako running towards the bottom lane, and Hoya has no flash, praying that the Maiden will bail him out. But the stun from Mako sets up the Shy. Doesn't land the spear, but the ignite from Mako is taking him down. No sustain's gonna come in from that shovel. The Shy puts Yorick into the dirt. IG continuing to accelerate the game.
Yeah, they're going to be pushing through the mid lane right here as well. Not quite going to be able to take this tower down. Some low health bars, but there's no real response available here out of ThunderTalk. They were able to pick themselves up that game in game number 2. They were able to put themselves in a good spot for a few minutes in this one, but unfortunately, Beichuan right here on the Sejuani just not having the same impact he had on that carry Lilia. His tank performances today have just been a little bit lackluster, and unfortunately, without having a big play through your jungle in this one, it feels so hard to make it work. We'll have a look back at what was happening mid lane. We were watching the bot lane play as this went on. JJ just jumps on forwards. He's definitely having the better time of the jungle in this one. And of course, they aren't actually able to pick themselves up the tower. Do end up kind of just stood next to the base of ThunderTalk for a while. It's pretty funny to watch, but they don't actually pay the price for it at all.
Yeah, IG have not officially broken the base open yet, but it's a 6,000 gold advantage. They've got 2 dragons to the name now. 4th dragon of the game spawning in a minute and a half. Baron coming up in 2 minutes. And Otacon is still live for the taking. IG just going to play the map cleanly out. Oh, good spear from the Shy. Just going to make Feather a little sad that he has to walk all the way back to the safety of his teammates. And no one on ThunderTalk is going to even try to walk up and contest this objective.
In that big previous team fight that we had, no one on ThunderTalk is going to step up, right? Right, Rafa? That would be dumb.
Hoya TP'd in. No one's going to get in. Beichuan tries to look at it, but it's secured. And I don't think ThunderTalk can even get in and take a couple of roses for themselves. They might as well make a bouquet for their incoming funeral, because the rest of ThunderTalk have been exposed, pulled in by the hopes of maybe stealing an objective away from IG, but 1xN forced to flash, cannot escape the Cougar and Demacian Prince of IG. They have the Otacon withdrawals, so they can play as hard as they want to, force as many kills as they can get, and this game is pretty much over.
Raffle, my head is in my hands right now. In my hands. I just... Look, ThunderTalk, they live by the sword, they die by the sword.
Yeah.
And in that one, they wanted to go for the fight. It was a bad idea. It was a really bad idea. And that was shown, right? Especially at the point at which you've already lost the Atakan. Because at most, you're just getting those false lives back off. They step up here anyway, and I was wondering, hey, do we end up seeing the team fight Yorick? Yes, we did, and it does about as much as one would expect. He's really not able to get involved in this one, and I just love the all-in right here. There's so much mobility and so much follow-up that you've got from this IG composition that they're able to just go flying in. 1xN, he's not going to be able to survive that one, and as you highlighted, false life means that it's not even going to be deaths to the tower right here. Hoyer at least doesn't go down, but Beachwa does on the backside of this fight. And it's a complete disaster here for ThunderTalk.
And now the jungle quadrant doesn't even really belong to ThunderTalk anymore. Unless they bring more friends to the party. I don't know who got the blue buff, but I don't think it really matters. IG have done what they wanted. They lured ThunderTalk back into the forest. And here comes the Cougar once again. The rest of IG sinking their fangs into ThunderTalk members one by one. The Shy gonna look for another spear, doesn't quite find it. It's a triple kill for Gala. And the rest of IG continuing to put more nails into the inevitable coffins of ThunderTalk.
Yeah, with just 1xN still available, he is at least going to stop a push onto the base, but the Baron going to fall right here to IG. They didn't need it in their first victory against ThunderTalk in Game 1 of this series. They're going to need this one right here just to be able to crack open the base with 4 grubs available to them as well. The base, the Nexus, is going to be the next target available, and it's just been such a rough game, unfortunately, right here. ThunderTalk not even able to get themselves what would be feats of warfare at this point in the game. No kills going over to them time and time again. They don't own this bit of the jungle. They shouldn't be stepping up into this bit of the jungle. They have no right to do so, but at the same time, ThunderTalk, they don't know how to stop themselves from fighting. This team loves a good scrap. Unfortunately, at this point, it's just a wallet diff. It's just a comp diff, getting chunked down. Some really good engages right here. Lots of the chains landed out of Rookie. Very aggressive plays out of JJ as well. Honestly, everybody so far from IG has played a heck of a game.
Yeah. And credit where credit is due. ThunderTalk is definitely one of the teams that, when they're behind, they don't let themselves just passively bleed out. They try to fight their way back in. And, you know, we've seen in Split 1, when this team is on sync, they believe in the same call together. The problem is, being down this much gold, it doesn't matter how good the call is, unless if IG are playing super, super, super poorly, or someone is terribly out of position, none of these fights are winning.
It's going to take a throw right here for ThunderTalk to be able to get back into this game. The inhibitor towers are going to begin to fall. We've got these Baron empowered cannon minions just beginning to bear down onto the base. ThunderTalk, you're going to have to try for one more fight. We know they like to do that. Don't know that it's going to work out.
Shy playing with his food right now in the faces of multiple members of ThunderTalk, while the rest of IG are barreling through the bottom lane. Now 2 inhibitors completely exposed and destroyed in one swift sequence by IG. And they're going to use the power of this Baron minion to start knocking on the Nexus towers. Curtain call opened up by 1xN. Tries to find a window here. The Glacial Prison thrown out by Rookie as he engages onto Feather, forcing him to flash. Beichuan now thinking about trying to step up and look for a counterplay, but Rookie sustains off with the Kingslayer. And the rest of IG gonna step on back. The flash forward, forward bullet from 1xN does find Rookie, creates a 5-on-4. And now IG gonna have to respect their time has come to an end in the base of ThunderTalk.
Yeah, unfortunately, IG not going to be able to close this one out. ThunderTalk, they fight back. You manage to get a pretty big shutdown right here for 1xN. It's going to help him get further towards a next completed item. Last Whisper now going to be in inventory in an attempt to deal with this unkilled Jarvan. JJ having such a massive game. It's something. It's another kill. It's one more kill. They've got 3 finally. But there's a lot of unkilled members right now on IG. And it still feels like that was just delaying the inevitable.
Yep. Like we said, I think it's admirable that ThunderTalk will still be one of the few teams that can play as a 5-man unit and believe in the same call, even when they're super far behind. Unfortunately, the individual star power sometimes just does not match up to the pedigree of some of the rosters that we have in this league. when it works, it's awesome to see, and we celebrate it because it deserves to be celebrated. But the expected outcome was IG going into this series. The fact that ThunderTalk took a game off of them in that second game is still something pretty notable. But for IG, this is a team that we talked about has the potential to tango with the top teams in the league. They're ones that upset top esports, but then crumbled against some of the other teams in the league.
Yeah. It's been a crazy split so far for IG. They're going to be pretty annoyed having dropped that game number 2 here to ThunderTalk. The narrative about them really had changed after the win against top esports. Now, there's still going to be some questions about them. They just need to clean this one out nicely. Close it out exactly as this game should have been a little while ago. ThunderTalk, here's another last stand. It's going to take so many of them.
The third inhibitor is for the taking. Curtain Call stops, or at least delays IG from doing that for now. Attention is turned on to the Nexus Tower. Glacial Prison clips the Shy's Nidalee, forced to flash away. Does not want to drop a death here. Can always recall and look for a TP back. Hoya under fire, flashing away from Jeja's flag and drag. Deadly Flourish thrown out, not finding anything. There's the Cataclysm right on the two members that do not have flash. Satab actually still has it, but pops the Chaos Storm, finally flashing backwards. Mako catching him in the Magnus Storm, but ThunderTalk holding their own, standing their ground. Wait a minute, but the Shy puts away Beichuan, and you have to imagine this should be the end of the game. Hoya chasing Gala to the ends of the earth, but then takes an arrow to the face. 1xN and Satab still holding the remains of their base strong, and wait a minute, somehow the game is still not over.
Do they know that this is a 3-series day? You know, we've got another one to get to after this. IG still not going to be able to close this one out. It's got to the point where 1xN is actually dealing quite a lot of damage. Between him and Setab, they're very close to actually being online as carries. They're still obviously very far behind the curve. And it does mean there are going to be no inhibitors, no towers left available. But the last stand, it does happen. How many times can we keep calling it the last stand, right? This is twice that this has happened to IG. Closing this game out is just so tricky.
I mean, to their credit, if the composition was not super far behind in gold, it's a solid front-to-back setup that you get.
Yeah.
And we talked about the limitations of the damage profile that was on the side of IG. The unfortunate part for TT is that they got completely rolled after the one river fight in the mid game. But I mean, yeah, I'm in the same boat with you, bro.
Yeah, we want to go home.
The game was supposed to end right then and there.
Yep.
Y'all were ready to wrap up the series. Go get some dinner with the boys, you know, call it a good day and look forward to your next series. But now it's another couple minutes, maybe 4 or 5, depending on what objectives are up on the table. I will say, if somehow ThunderTalk are able to pull off another base defense, stall for inhibitors spawning, one in the Nexus turrets just came back up. Elder Dragon is 5.5 minutes away.
Surely we're not going to get to that point. Surely the Baron buff is going to be more than enough to close this game out. 4 items now completed. 1xN actually was just able to grab the eye edge. He does some insane damage if he's able to just sit and do what he needs to. Right now, these respawned inhibitors are going to take massive threat. Only one Nexus Tower available. This is really surely it, right?
The Shy occupying the attention of 2 on the top side, pushing in through the Baron minions.
Wait, is the Shy caught?
The Shy getting chunked out.
He's fine.
Half HP. Uh-oh. Big engage. Down goes Hoya. Cataclysm right onto 1xN. He flashes away. Feather will fall. Beichuan is next. 1xN jumped up by Rookie.
He's dead.
Finally, the chain lash connects, and IG will put an end to this series. 2-1. IG are victorious against ThunderTalk.